Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. I'm Catherine Page. I am the director and founder of the Agents of Change training team, which is ACT, Social Change Warriors. And this is our first episode tonight of our new weekly series that we're going to be doing once a week, Monday through Friday. The day will depend on the actual guest. And we're going to be interviewing social workers in the field. They're going to be sharing with us the trials and tribulations of what's going on in their professions as social workers. And we'll be doing that once a week going forward. So we're glad that you could join us. Just wanted to give you a quick overview of who we are in case you've never heard of us. Like I said, we're the Agents of Change training team, and our core principles are knowledge, power, action, and change. We believe that knowledge creates power, power leads to action, and action creates change. And I'm working with 4 other social workers currently. We all have our master's degrees in social work from USC. And we are forming a team to bring you information about the challenges that we face in our communities. And they are called the Grand Challenges of Social Work. So we will be putting together articles for you, webinars, documentaries, workshops, and these weekly interviews with fellow social workers. So if you yourself or if anyone you know would like to interview with us during our weekly series, or if you have a webinar in mind, we would love to help you. And you can go on our website, socialchangewarriors.org, and request help from us. We have a request form on there. You can also check out our YouTube channel. We're just starting to put content up, and we'd love to hear from you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to a former student of mine. I was his field instructor a few years ago, Joshua Kleinbergs, and Joshua is a fellow social worker. He is working in the Los Angeles County, and he is also a graduate of the University of Southern California and completed his master's degree there, and then worked for several years with the Los Angeles Police Department and the Metro system. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about that.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Kat, and it's good to see you, and it's nice to see you, what you're doing here after, USC and stuff. It's really awesome. And I'm very grateful to be here and explain what I do. As you said, after I graduated from USC, I was already doing some work in the field of mental health. I was working at a treatment center, and I jumped into. I saw a ad for a job, and it was the description was homeless services, working with the police, working on the Metro system. And I remember from USC, there was an article we read about just such a thing. And it just stuck in my mind and stuck in my head. And I always wondered, where is this social work job that this speaks of? A place where social workers work in teams to go out in the community and help the most vulnerable get into housing. That's the basics. And to be honest with you, that is the basics of what I've been doing for the past 4 years. Little did I know what I read in school would be much different than what I experienced in the field. What I experienced in the field was nowhere near as impressive as what I read in school. So, means I have a lot of work to do out here. So for the last 3 years prior to my job change about 4 months ago, which I'll talk about, I was working for the Metro, for the transportation system in LA County. And basically what I do is take people that are using the transportation, that are PEH, people experiencing homeless. That's the acronym that is popular right now, or PHs, as the police like to say. What I found is that population used the Metro, so I got in contact with a lot of the homeless in LA County. Not to mention all of the homeless services that are available, the different providers. I got to meet a lot of directors, a lot of caseworkers. So I've been doing this for a long time. We also partner with the police, the Los Angeles Hope Team, is what we're doing. So I don't work for PATH anymore, so I don't mind talking about them, but I did. People Assisting Homeless is a nonprofit in California. They're based out of the Bay Area, and they work in pretty much all the major cities in California. I think they have over 700 employees. and
Wow.
a lot of government contracts. Um, so as you know, with how we do social work in the United States is we we put it all on the nonprofits or on the
Mhm.
religious institutes and stuff. Um, so that's why I was really excited to make the switch a few months ago and to go from nonprofit and then get into the government. I'm not going to go into specifics of who I work for, but I work in LA County, and you guys could probably figure that out. Um, and I went from working on the trains um, and on the metros to working with local police departments and working with their individuals that they have identified that they're really familiar with. So there could be anywhere from 100 to 200 individuals in said city, and I'm working with the most vulnerable. So I'm trying to find out. It's basically triaging on the streets.
Right.
I'm triaging, and it all starts with a conversation. It doesn't
So I have
start.
a question for you. I'm fascinated by this collaboration with the police. When I was a police officer back in the 90s, we had not reached that level yet. Our collaborations with social workers was very far and few between. So I'm really interested in this. So when you first got started, it was LA Metro and the police, and all three entities were working in collaboration. Then your agency, the police, and the Metro.
Yes, in its raw sense, yes, they're collaborating together. But the way they collaborate together, it's all over the place. Um, local cities. Obviously, you know how police forces work. Maybe not here in LA. It's a little different. We have
Right.
the sheriffs, which they patrol the unincorporated parts of the county that haven't uh, split off to their own cities, and then we have the local city departments that usually their jurisdiction is just said city. Um, but the gray areas is a lot of people like to sleep in the places in between.
Right.
So the places in between, we have the Army Corps of Engineers. We have Department of Water and Power. We have a lot of different other agencies that we work under, that will contract us. Um, the way homeless services work in LA County, though, it's all ran under an organization called LASA, and they take that funding and they distribute it from there. They're more of the coordinating efforts of it. They do have an outreach teams, but they're more orchestrating and behind the scenes.
Great. So just to give our audience a little bit of an idea of the scope of the problem that you're dealing with, Los Angeles County is home to an estimated 10 million people. It's sort of hard to even fathom that. A great comparison is where Betty lives, one of my social change warriors who's in the audience tonight, and she may have some questions for you in the chat box.
Mhm.
The population of LA County is larger than the entire state of North Carolina. And it's hard to even fathom that for a lot of people, especially if you're from a much smaller town in even a smaller state than North Carolina. The roots of homelessness in the research I did, and you and I spoke a couple days ago, definitely stem from low housing supply, the systemic racism, and the income inequality. So let's talk about that for a bit. I want to get your opinion on that. And if Betty has any questions to toss into the chat box, she can do that. The current homelessness population in LA County is 63,706, according to my research. You may have a different number than I do.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Something happened to my screen. Can you
I
repeat that
can hear
last
you.
part?
Oh, I was just mentioning that the research I did before we met tonight was the LA's count as of your last homelessness count, where you did the live count.
Mm.
What I found was 63,706. Has that number gone up or down?
Okay, so the numbers are just went out in January. The volunteers go out, outreach workers, they get us to do some numbers, and those numbers aren't out yet. We can't really, so I can't give you any definite numbers. I could give you, what I see out there. I can give you some anecdotal evidence and stuff.
That's a big number, though, Josh. I mean, even if it's a little less or a little more, that's a big number of people that you're trying to help.
Oh yeah, it's every bit of that, and some probably. You got to remember there's seasonal, migratorial homelessness. There
Right.
is the snowbirds, people coming down and then going back up. There's
Right.
people that are out with family and then they're out for a couple months and then they'll maybe stay with another family member and then do something and be kicked back out. So there's constant flow. Almost every family member has some experience with you know with some family member or friend experiencing
Right.
homelessness.
Now, when
And
I
the
was
other
doing,
part, oh, one really, really important thing to remember is we don't just serve LA County's homeless.
right.
We serve. I will stop at the United States, the continental United States, but it's larger than that,
Yeah.
especially in LA. It's a sanctuary, so some of my clientele come from all over the world.
Amazing. When I was finishing my degree at USC, I was able to spend a little time volunteering on Skid Row in Los Angeles. And I think a lot of people have heard of Skid Row because it's been mentioned in movies and television shows. It's not anything like what you see in those movies and television shows. They don't really represent it accordingly or correctly in the respect of the just the sheer depression of it and the frustration of the workers who are trying to help these individuals into some type of housing, transitional housing, and help them not be on the streets. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other places in LA County, but I think a lot of people get this misinterpretation of that that's where all the homeless people in LA County is on Skid Row. And that's not true. And I know that's not true, but I don't know that a lot of other people know that.
Yeah, no, that's just the place designated, for the last 50, 60 years, the Skid Row. That's where people go, and they concentrated all of the homeless services there. So they concentrated the shelters there, the food banks, and, like Fill the Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And so that's how we got Skid Row. And it's here to, they tried to clear it out this year. They made some mandates. We had some orders come through politicians and stuff, but it was I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat. Someone asked to explain the international component, which I will. But the Skid Row, or Los Angeles now has its encampments are everywhere. You can't go into any city without finding, people are posting up just about everywhere. Especially with the quarantine that's happened, when everything was quarantined and people went indoors, it really exposed the streets. And so when everyone else went indoors, the people experiencing homeless and people living in the streets couldn't go indoors because there was quarantines. If there was a shelter that was quarantined, they would shut it down and people would be stuck.
The discrepancy of minimum wage versus affordable housing is a real problem in our country right now. Probably it feels like it's the worst it's ever been. I mean, when a person who makes $15 to $16 an hour is expected to pay upwards of $900 for just a one-bedroom apartment, that's a major problem. And that as social workers, we're seeing more and more people homeless, not because they want to be or because they don't have a job. Many homeless people do have jobs and they just can't afford the rent.
Right.
So that's probably your biggest issue working with homeless populations is where do we start? Where is the correction for that? Obviously policy, but we both know how many years that can take.
Yeah.
So what's the short answer to help people not be living in the streets?
The short answer is not the one that anyone wants to hear because it takes a long time, but it's changing discourse. It's a generational change. It's changing the way we think and our values for the long term. It's changing ideas. Ideas last forever. Humans don't. So this thing that we are going to be working on will be continuing long after my last breath. So I think we need to look at it like that. Everything in life is about timing. Is this the right time in life for the whole world to work on this thing together? I think it is. That's another important factor is the timing of this all. And another important factor is the right leaders, getting the right people to lead in a joint effort. A lot of people are trying to do this on their own, or trying to point fingers and blame and take over the reins to a problem they know nothing about and never will, ever. So, so they want to. So what they're, ostensibly doing is recreating the wheel, taking a program, ending it, killing it, and then starting a new program from the beginning. I don't know. I mean, unless a program is so confusing and bad that you have to stop it, I get it. But you can't replace something that people are just getting into. People are coming out of school and are finally feeling like they're part of something. And because for the last 20 years it hasn't been working, because there's been no one with the right skills and training and the education that was being developed in the classrooms to now start putting it into play. And so what we're finding is it's the fight. The biggest fight right now is with the patriarch.
Mm-hmm.
If you, I wish I could explain that more. The biggest arguments are with some of the same old voices that have been screaming, been really critical, but not offering solutions. Or when they do offer solution, it's another hammer. When we don't need any more hammers, these aren't nails we're working with. These are screws and rivets and really, really difficult things.
Right.
And they want to hurry up and smash it. And I don't know. I'm speaking very vaguely because I can't go into details. But a lot of the things I wish in these documentaries and in these things, like I love how you hearing it from me, but I want you to hear it from someone that got housing and what they went through to get that, and who didn't help them, who said that they did, and who is what really is helping.
Absolutely. And
the answers are.
I'm hoping that you and I can bridge into that. I hope that we can bridge into making a documentary together where we can actually interview individuals who have or have not received the help that they were promised, and how did that work out for them. I had a couple, when I was doing my research on things we talked about the other day, when you were talking about numbers and
did you want me to go back and answer that question from Betty?
Yes.
Please explain it.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, before we move on, so the international component, because like I said, Los Angeles is a sanctuary city. A lot of people come here from war-torn countries, seeking asylum. So this last year, I've had quite a few people coming from over the border. I've had a few people coming from Eastern Europe. I've had a family from Chechnya come. And, there's a lot of people that would rather be homeless in Los Angeles than deal with what they have to deal with. And so it's difficult, because you don't go to school and they teach you what to do with people who have no documentation and don't qualify for any services at all. In fact, the places and organizations you work for don't even know what to do. And when you start making phone calls and calling around, it leads to dead end after dead end after dead end. And so that's where we are. That's the actual of where we are. We are still there. Well, I don't know how long we'll be there. Social services are always going to be something that we're fighting for, for people. Right. So unless it's on the doorstep, unless it's so visual that we see the tents and the whole entire county looks like Skid Row, it's hard to get people to do something.
Right.
But it is a community effort, and the discourse really needs to change. Like, we need to stop seeing, people as all the criminals and all this and all that and all these things, and start seeing them as friends and family members. The kids we went to school with that were getting picked on and bullied, that no one came to their aid. And I know in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So, because that's when I was a kid. And so that's what I look like. I look back and I look out when I wake up in the morning and I look out, I'm going, I almost feel like when I was in high school and all this other stuff, but it's just bigger, more
Right.
macro and more macro and more macro.
And most people only see what they want to see. And when they do see a person who needs help and is on the street corner asking for small change, or they have their sign up, I'm a wounded vet and I help, most people they put their blinders on because they don't want to deal with it, because they feel so helpless. Most people that have empathy feel so incredibly helpless. So they just
Right.
want to keep going on their day. Then there's those that actually do stop and say, hey, can I give you a ride to the shelter? Or, how much money do you need? Some money for food today? Then you've got those handful, but there's just a majority. And then there's the section of people who feel disgusted and, oh, that person's only homeless because they don't want to work. And they stereotype
Right.
the homeless, and that doesn't help
And
whatsoever.
a lot of those people with that attitude are in homeless services, because we know what power, when you get into positions of power, you become complacent and you
Right.
forget that you're the one with the power.
Right.
And
And I
so,
think it's such an overwhelming problem. And so many stops and starts have been made into so many cities across the country. When we were taking our masters, before I finished before you, but when I was your field instructor, we talked about the different kinds of programs. In Pasadena, you have a program where they're trying to put together different resources all under one roof. And I used to know the name for that. Maybe you remember it, but it's when,
here's a good speaking of
when you're trying to work together.
Pasadena. This is a good little thing. I was at Pasadena today for my client. My client, I'll give you a breakdown without any anonymity, but Native American, no COB, which is a certificate of blood, for over 10 years, and been sleeping on the side of the freeway off of the 10, and for a long time. But finally, we were able to reach the individual, and 35 days later, it was a lot of coordinated effort, but 35 days later, they got placed into a treatment, into a detox. Within that time, I was able to get their birth certificate going, call the DNA or Apache Apache, no, Navajo, I'm sorry, and get his COB going, and she is transitioning, and the shelter that they're at is LGBTQ, completely open for that. I went and visited, and she's doing really well, and
Wow.
is just, yeah, it's just amazing the kind of work that's happening out here. But all that said, there's no rules, there's no of how to do that, there's no textbook,
Right.
there's nothing that teaches you how to build rapport with someone has PTSD for social services. Right. There's tricks that I do, there's things that I say that can really reach somebody because I've been there. And having having the skills, having the former experience makes a huge difference in their lives. Now, the major thing that's missing is the compensation, and it's driving a lot of people, good social workers, away.
Right.
Yeah, and the lack of professionalization is another thing I think is pushing us away from that.
And we could spend a whole nother 30 minutes just in that little corner of social work and working with the homeless population and the different agencies that are trying to work together. So I'd like to hear a little bit about what is the coordinated entry system.
So the coordinated entry system for LA County, each county have their own coordinated entry systems. There might be like the Riverside coordinated entry system. We usually shorten that and abbreviate it to the CES. So if anyone says, "Oh, did you do a CES on them?" or the CES, what they're referring to is a system, a database, basically, that you can log into and add clients' information, see clients' information that pertains to them getting off the streets into housing. And so the word coordinated is because there's over 100 nonprofits out there that are involved in this. Uh, if you wanted to even go a little bit deeper, the county is divided up into 8 what's called service planning areas, and
Okay.
also known as spas. So that's another very popular word in LA County, is what spa are they in? So if you're in the north all the way to Lancaster, by up in the desert way above LA, like an hour and a half drive, you're in spa 1. If you're all the way down south to Long Beach, again, it takes 2 hours to get from one area of LA to the other, then you're in Long Beach and you're in spa 8. And so the first spa's on 1, the last one's on 8, and then there's ones in between. And they're big areas. And what they do is they'll take one of the biggest nonprofits and they'll give them that whole spa area. And people will have to go through them to get their services, you put the referrals into that organization. So those organizations are like they're usually faith-based or something like that. They might have the word Lutheran or Catholic Charities or Christian something. So a lot of it is all faith-based. And, those are nonprofits too. Right. So there's accountability issues. It's public sector and private sector working together. Who do you think is going to get all the blame? The public sector.
Public, yeah.
It gets all the blame. Well, we have a fascination with thinking that government is something more than just actually our collective decisions. Like it's something more nefarious than that.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that it's not.
Exactly.
It is a collective of our decisions, and we can change it.
Right. We just have to. We have to push for policy change. We have to vote. It all starts there. I think what's most frustrating for a lot of social workers, though, when you discuss government, is there are a lot of really good bills that constituents take to their congressmen and their senators. And a lot of those come from social workers and from community organizations. And they want to change policy. So they follow the rules. They follow the way to do it. They write up the policy. They talk to their congressmen, their senators. The congressmen and senators buy in. Yeah, we agree with this. I agree with what you're trying to do. Let me take that, to the government. Then it goes, as you know, what's the old saying? The Senate is where the bills from the Congress go to die. And that's the most frustrating thing is if you take a minute and just look up and see how many bills are sitting in limbo land and they're not getting looked at anymore. And they were so successfully passed in the Congress. There were parties going on and cheering that, hey, we made it this far. We've made it through the Congress. And then they don't ever go anywhere. And then all those people that spent all that time trying to change that policy, write that bill, they get frustrated. And then they may change jobs. They may move on and say, I don't want to do this anymore because I never get anywhere. So there's just a lot of frustration that social workers that are trying to work in the policy aspect of social work just constantly run up against brick walls. So that is one of the big problems. And then, of course, the funding. I mean, we could have 3 sessions about all of the roadblocks to helping the homeless that are faced. And
I think I'm going to look into that, actually. I've been looking into starting a series. I would like to start a series, on homeless services and take everything that I've learned in the last 4 years.
Oh, that would be fascinating. It'd be great.
To see how I could, again, I need to see how I could do that without jeopardizing anybody's confidentiality, any breaking any policies and all that other things. Because at the end of the day, I really feel like everyone has their hearts, minds in the right place,
Yes.
But as they say, the path to hell is paved with good intentions, and if you don't have like you say, if we don't start with knowledge, then we could be messing things up.
Right, exactly. And that's why we started Social Change Warriors. We want to bring knowledge to the communities. We want to share with our fellow community members what social workers are doing out there to help and what kind of stumbling blocks we're running up against and how the communities can help. So talk to me about these numbers. I pulled these numbers off of the webpage that you suggested from the agency. And these are some pretty jarring numbers. So can you help me and the audience kind of understand what we're up against here?
1,388 assessments to understand and support homeless individual needs. 11,171 active participants awaiting to be matched or referred to housing resources. 238 participants matched to a housing resource. So, if I were looking at those numbers, the biggest numbers, what you got to see is there's 11,171 participants waiting to be matched.
Yeah.
And that number to the right, how many were matched? 238. So that leaves 10,000, and I can't do the math, 29 plus 38 minus 100.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That leaves still, a little bit less than 11,000 still. And that's however accurate those numbers can be. You got to remember there's a lot of, this is kind of new, and people aren't paid very much money. And a lot of people are volunteers, and a lot of people are treated really bad, especially the outreach worker. An outreach worker coming out of school, investing all their time and everything, and then they get out in the field and they take it from the top. They take it from other coworkers, and you take it from the clients, and you take it from family members and friends sometimes at Christmas time. And it's not fair for the outreach workers who are out here trying to do something that's very, very complicated.
Absolutely.
Very complicated. And you're trying to be out there in a world where people are desperate and will tell you anything to get services. And then will tell other people.
Or they don't want your help. They've had bad experiences, like you were saying. They have PTSD, and they will simply say to you, "I am never going back to a shelter. I was abused there. I was robbed there." So then you have to.
That's our jobs as outreach workers. That's our jobs to understand the PTSD in real time. To understand when it's a good time to step away, when it's a good time to use redirect, when it's a good try to use motivational interviewing, to know, even what you're looking at, to open up someone's file in that coordinated entry system and seeing all the other people working with them and put the timeline together to know what could have happened. It takes a long time to do this job, and it should, there's people out here that are being trained right now and getting ready for this, but I'm looking and excited about an institution that could come, that can last, that has legacy, that will last a long time, like Jesuit priests, like, organizations that are still around 1,000 years later, still fighting the good fight long after we're here. And nonprofits come and go, don't they?
Right. They do. Right.
So.
Well, I have so much respect for what you're doing out in the streets of Los Angeles. Literally, that's where you are every day. You're getting tips and leads from the police department, and you're going out to contact new people that have just either become homeless or they have been homeless and nobody knew they were there. And how do you handle the burnout of all of this? Because you're just dealing with so much sadness every day and frustration when you can't help someone and they don't want to accept your help. How are you handling the burnout of that?
Luckily, I think that I'm well adjusted through my former experience in the streets, through the resiliency that I've had to overcome, through some horrible situations that I've been through, that I'm well adjusted for this kind of work.
Good.
And not everyone is. But I looked at it. But when you do find you're well adjusted for something, that's a good sign that you're in the right place and you're on the right track.
Right.
And if you're not well adjusted something, that's a good sign that you're in the wrong place or you're not ready for where you're at and you need more work. And so I'm in a very good place for where I'm at, and I feel very grateful. I make jokes a lot. I feel blessed and cursed to be doing what I'm doing.
I'm sure.
But I feel like I was led to do it, and it's so hard to say when I say, "Oh, I was led to do it," because some people just say that when they have a feeling, a gut feeling or whatever. But no, mine was actual physical things that happened to me in life and things that occurred that shouldn't have happened to anybody, but they do. And I realized they happen to a lot of people. And, and it became the theme of my life, suffering. And I almost, if, you know, it became the theme of my life. And so here I am today. And that's still the theme. And when you're become well adjusted, it's not sad out there.
Right. Right.
It's not sad for me. It's hopeful. Every day is hopeful.
You're on a mission every day, right? You're on a mission every day to find new people that need your help.
I could tell you, we smile and we laugh, and my day is not sad. My day is funner than I would say 95% of all the jobs out there.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited that I got to be here with you today, speak with you about your job, working with people that need the help so much. I think it'd be great to have you on again in the near future and talk a little bit more in depth about what you actually do on the ground. So it'd be great to get together with you again. I'm going to close off for tonight. I want to thank everybody that made it to our YouTube channel and watched our recording tonight. And again,
there's actually a clip of me I could probably send you, and it was on public TV. So I'm sure you could see me, and that was me working with the metros, and it's talking about the metros.
Yeah.
So I will say this about clips that you see on TV is really pay attention and visually look at them and see what's going on in the situation. See how clients are looking at that police chief that's standing next to them. Does it look like that things seem awkward there? The pictures, you have to look deeper than what's going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of stuff that's coming up. And it's another big word, embedded journalism. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that word?
Yes, I do. We can talk about that. We can talk about that next time when you come on and chat with us. So I will definitely share any clips you want to share with me. I'll put those on our website, socialchangewarriors.org, or on our YouTube channel, Social Change Warriors. And we hope that you will reach out to us and contact us in the future for any training needs that you might have, or if you would like to be a guest on our show, that would be wonderful. So have a great night, everyone. Take care of yourselves out there. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Kat. It's been a blast. Bye, everybody.
It's been a pleasure. Bye, everyone.